Hello everyone, welcome to My Craft Orchard. I'm Edwina. So this is the third video of a junk journal series that I'm doing, and in the first one we had a look at all the things that you need to make a junk journal. So the scrap paper, the tea staining, coffee stained paper, that sort of thing that I particularly use. In the second one we actually went through them and folded everything to make a journal, and what we've done is we've gone away and we've just sort of let it sit, maybe for a couple of hours or a day, or in my case a bit longer, and I've just had a look through myself off camera, and I'm quite happy with the way all the pages are. What I've also done is I have printed out the Junk Journal January prompts off Instagram that Meg Journals does. And the idea is that this journal will be filled with the prompts from this. Now, we're sort of halfway, as I'm filming this, I'm halfway through January, so I've got a bit of catching up to do, but this is a bit of fun, you know. I'm not going to pressurise myself to actually get this done by the end of January. It might be February or March, but I've got the prompts here ready to do. So when I need a bit of downtime, I just want to do a bit of decorating or whatever, I've actually got the prompts. So got the prompts. I flicked through and had a look. The other thing that I noticed I hadn't done, so just to recap, so I've got tea stain paper, every other one, and then I've got a decorative page out of my Daphne's diary or magazines that I've had. I've got a bit of a tuck spot going on there, and so I've got a page for writing the prompt or whatever, and then I've got like a decorative bit that I can colour or paint or leave as it is or draw on, whatever I fancy. Stick things on, washi tape, all of those sort of things. Oh, that's lovely, isn't it? What I also do at the beginning of every journal is I put an envelope. So this is a card envelope that I was given, but there's nothing on the back, look. So what I was going to do first of all, before we sew this together, because that's what I'm going to show you in this video, is how to sew all this together and get it into a journal, is what am I going to do with like a half page. So if there's something I really want to use, like this envelope, because what I do at the beginning of all my journals is I put an envelope and then I stick the journal prompts or a calendar or whatever I'm sort of using the journal for. So what I'll do is I'll cut that out and I'll probably washi tape that onto that envelope. So it's half a page. I'm doing an A5 journal, so there's no A4, there's nothing sort of this side on this flap. So I found a paper bag and I found like a weekly planner, and I noticed that if I fold the paper bag over, it covers the weekly planner bit on this side. And what I can do is I can put that in to there like that, and so I will then make a full page by sticking those together down the middle. And this is the same if you've got a piece of paper and another piece of paper that you really want to use, then you could just line them up like that, and then you can washi them down the middle, or I have some clear Scotch tape here that I'm going to be using, and you could just tape them down and tape them together, and then when you sew them in, the tape acts as sort of the middle bit. So I quite like the fact that that's folded over and that's there. So let me just borrow a piece of this paper to line everything up. So what I might actually do is make some clips and clip these together. I've got some clips. I'm going to clip that so it doesn't move, and then I'm going to put that totally around that piece to cover that bit there, because I don't want that. Now with this paper bag, it's actually open on this side here, and it's sealed by the manufacturer here. So I'm using the bite base that's already been glued down as sort of the top, because then I can use that as a tuck like that. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to tape down that raw edge. If I can find the end of the sellotape. It's always the way when you're under pressure. There we go. I'm just going to tape that down. And you can use washi tape or masking tape or whatever you have for that. I wouldn't recommend glue. However, some people prefer gluing things to tape. So I've then folded that in half. And I'm going to just tuck that and make sure it's in the right place to cover all of those words. Like that. And I'm quite happy with the line at the top. I just don't want the weekly words, and my piece of paper's moved. Line that back up. Line that up. Because everything's moving, I'm just going to tape that. Not tape. I'm going to clip that bit. And you can put as many clips on this as you want. Now, the next question is, where do I want this bit? Do I want to stick it under there like that? So what happens is the journal goes in and you open it up. So the back page of the journal will be like that. Well, it'll actually be a cream one. So it'll look like that. And so then you'll have that. Or do I want that on the very back? So turn that over, and then the journal goes in there like that, and you see that bit, and then when you flip it over you've got that bit. I think I prefer it that way, so when I come to this page I've got that with the writing on the top, I think. Yes. So that's it. And then on the other side you'll have that flipping open like that. Okay. So if I want that like that, and that like that, make sure that's in the right place. Turn it over. That doesn't work because I want that at the top. It'll have to be stuck down that way. Yeah. So turn that over. The thing with junk journaling and all of these sort of crafts is actually working out exactly what it is you want to do before you do it. And that's the bit that I always think takes the time. You know what? I'm going to totally change what I've just said. I am going to put this open bit in there like that, so it looks like that. So when you come to open it, that looks like that, and then when you open it that way, that looks like that. Just bear with me while I just try a few things these out. No, I don't like that. Okay, that'll do it. Right. So line it up with my A5 so I know it's in the middle. Like that, and then that bit is where I want it to be, and then that bit is tucked under there like that, and I'll line that up as well. So what I'm now going to do line that up, make sure that's in the right place. And the beauty of this is because I have sticky here, because it's an envelope that hasn't been used, I'm just going to pull that off like that because it's a brand new envelope, and I'm going to fold that over like that. So that stuck the blue bag to the piece of paper. So when I open it up like that, oh, it should be stuck, well it's not. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put a bit more tape on all that. But it's all lined up. If you have an envelope that doesn't have any sticky on, I was lucky, then line it all up and then use your washi or Scotch tape like I'm doing and stick it all down. Or glue, you can glue it. You just need to be secure in everything. Give that a good press down. There we go. And the beauty of this Scotch tape is you can't see it. I now have an A4 sort of flip out A4 page that will go round that lot like that to start. I've got a tuck spot for things, and then for this bit I can have it as a flip out like that if I want to, or I can glue it down or tape it down, and I've got a tuck spot here then as well. So I'm going to create definitely this piece. I'm going to make it into a tuck spot. In fact, I'm going to tape that down now. All I think about it, I think. Like that. Now the other thing I'm going to do to give it a bit of strength is I'm going to tape that piece of paper down there as well. That way. Now if you've glued it, if you've glued the whole tab, is that what it's called? I'm not sure. Then you don't need to tape it down, but I'm going to, because when I sew this together, the sewing will actually go through this Scotch tape and it will give it a bit of strength. Perfect. So I've checked all the pages, they're all where I want them to be. They've just got to make sure that they're all the right way up now. And the key to that was the middle piece was like that. So that's the right way up and that goes in there now. There's two things I could do with this. I could just bang it on the table and make it all go down to the middle like that. But I'm actually left with a lot of things here. So that one needs to be moved up, so it's in the middle. And this is what you're now going to do. You're just going to rearrange all the pages so they are within the sewing area. Excuse me. Just me have a cup of coffee. So what happens when you do lots of talking? Now, with this one, you see it's quite a lot over the one side. So I'm going to move the whole thing down like that, because when I trim the top and the bottom, if I want to, I'll just be cutting off the white. Okay. Move that one up, move that one down. Now, with this one, you can't actually see, let me move it up. With this one, I've got decoration on the bottom of the page, but not a lot on the top. So I'm going to move that one up like that. So when I trim it, I trim that piece there. And that's fine on that side. There's more white up there than there is here. Then move that one down. And you just go through and move them up and down. To where they need to be. Of course, you can always trim them beforehand. So they're all the right size. If that's what you want to do, you can go ahead and trim them all to A5 afterwards. But I actually quite like doing it this way. And I'll trim them all together at the same time. And again, with this middle one, I need to make sure that's sort of somewhere in the middle. There we go. Double check. That one's moved. That one's out of line, so that needs to. I mean, if you like, you know, we're going to trim these anyway. And if you can't see where the lines, the pages aren't actually lined up. See, if I've just moved it up like that, and I can actually see a bit better now. I might just want to adjust a few pages. You know, what I might actually do is, once the cover's on it, is trim these so they are actually slightly longer and shorter. So I won't trim them dead on A5. I might just trim them a bit, you know, less or more, depending on how I feel. And that's the beauty of a junk journal. It doesn't have to be a regular size. You can make a junk journal any size you like. Okay, so they're all roughly where they need to be. What I'm now going to do is put a load of pressure on the middle. So I'm going to find the middle, because they're all still very loose. Okay, and I'm going to just put a very big ruler in the middle like that. Okay, and I'm going to put pressure on the middle here, and I'm going to put pressure on this here, right? So I'm going to push the ruler in this way against this hand. So I'm going to push it, push it, push it, push it, and then I'm going to hold it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a clip on it. There you go. In theory, by doing that, all of the edges, all of these crease bits should now be pushed together as hard as they can. Now when you sew them together, it's going to pull them all up, but we need them in line, if I'm honest. Okay, so now the middle's all where it needs to be. I'm now going to clip the edges the best I can. I probably need some bigger clips. I don't know. fold that one over. Okay. Because I didn't bring any more clips with me, I'm just going to steal that one. Clip that together like that. Okay. Now in theory, those shouldn't move. They should be pretty stable. Now, I'm not going to move them about too much because they might slip, and if they do, well, it doesn't matter. I'm now using a tailor's awl. This is actually a Sew Easy one, and it's got a very, very sharp tip on it to make holes in to put my needle through. Now, if you don't have one of these, you could use a sharp knitting needle, as sharp as you get. You could use a pair of very sharp scissors. The key is not to make the holes too big. If you've got a long sort of mattress needle, you could use that as well. The key is not to make the holes too big. So with the tailor's awl, I'm not actually going to push it all the way down because that piece is quite thick. I'm going to probably push it in about that much, I suppose. So if you look, it's probably going to be about that much. What, half an inch? And I'm going to start in the middle, which I reckon is about there. If you want to measure this, if you want to measure the holes, if you're a perfectionist and you want to measure the holes, by all means do so. I'm not going to stop anybody measuring things. However, I don't do that. Now, the key to this, because you don't want to damage your table, is you can get an old magazine and put underneath it. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to push it sideways. Let me just zoom you in. Oh, wait, sorry. Let me just zoom you in. So what I've done is I've just put right in there, and I'm just going to push it and twist it, and push it and twist it, and push it and twist it. It depends how strong you are. If you notice just there, it's now coming through. Okay, and that's all I'm going to do. I'm just going to push it that far. Okay. So I've gone through there. And then I'm going to leave about, so that's where the first hole is. I'm going to leave, how many shall I do? 5? You can do 3 or you could do 5. I think for an A5 I would do 5 holes. So I'm going to take between the middle, which is there, and the edge of the paper, and I'm going to put another one in edge of the paper is here. I'm just going to check because that piece is bigger, can you see? So the edge of those papers is here, middle. So I'm going to take, let me just pull you out again. Edge of the paper's there, so I'm going to leave about an inch between the edge of the paper. I'm going to do exactly the same. Put it in. I'm going to keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing. There we go. Hole all the way through, and then I'm going to choose a spot between the middle and so there's the one hole, there's the middle hole, and I'm going to choose a spot about in the middle, about there. I'm going to do the same. And I'm going to repeat that with the other edge. Sorry about that, my table's just had a right old wobble because You do need a bit of strength to do this. You can, instead of pushing it through the whole book like I've just done, and I've just done that for speed, you could just do a few pages at a time. So you could do 2 or 3 pages, and that way you get everything nicely lined up and things. So the next thing I'm going to use to sew all this together is I'm using a wool needle, one that you would use for woolen tapestries, that sort of thing. And I'm going to use some linen thread, and again, you don't have to use linen thread. I just find, because this is wax, so it goes through nicely. You can use cotton, you can use string, you could use baler twine, you could use the red and white string you use at Christmas, that sort of thing. So I normally say, let's say 3. So 1, 2, let's say 3 lengths. That should be enough. I'm going to thread my needle. Like that. And what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to start on the outside, in the middle, on the outside, and where I've put the tailor's awl, I'm just going to insert the needle, and in theory, because I haven't removed any of the clips, it's all still clipped together, it should come straight through. Look at that. The needle's come straight through. Okay, I'm going to pull that through. And what that does then is it leaves a tail. No, that's the interesting part. Getting the needle through. If I wobble the camera and everything, I do apologise, because this needs a bit of strength and a bit of wiggling. Sometimes it's a good idea to do a few pages at a time. Right, okay, so I'm going to pull it through, and I'm going to leave about half a page of thread, half a length of thread, if you can see that. Just sticking out the back. And it doesn't matter which way you go. I'm going to go this way, and I'm going to put my needle back through. And in theory, it should go straight through, which it has, because the punch hole where it needs to be. And once again, you need just to wiggle it. The thicker the journal, the more wiggling you'll have to do. So I've pulled that through, so I've got a line of thread up the middle there now, and I'm come out here, and I'm going to go back into that top hole there. And in theory it should go straight through. Yep. And a bit more wiggling. And because it's on the edge, you can now just sort of feed a couple of different pages over, if it helps, over the edge of the needle, like that. Okay, so that's the first. Now the thread is here, and we need it back in the middle, and we've still got to sew these pieces. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to now go back in where that came up. So where this thread is here, I'm going back in there, like that. If you're just doing 3, okay, you would pull it up through there and then back down there, and then you bring it this way and through there and up there, and then you tie it in the middle. It's the same principle. So bear with me while I just finish sewing these together. there's the last hole. All nicely sewn together, fabulous. Now the next thing to do, now you've actually got the thread in the holes, is just to make sure, particularly these two edges, because it's just to make sure that they are nice and tight. And you can see there, I've got a loop. Just want to make sure that I don't have any loops and that everything is nice and tight. Okay, so just give everything a bit of a tug so it's all nice and tight. There we go. Now, instead of sewing it like that, you can staple it. You could just do 3 sews. If it's a smaller journal, you can get away with 3. You can run it through your sewing machine. There's a lot of junk journalers use their sewing machines to sew booklets like this together, and it works really, really well. The only thing I would say is it will blunt your needle on your sewing machine, so don't use a brand new needle for it. I'm going to take the clips off now because I don't need them. Okay, and I'm going to take the needle off because I don't want to spike myself with that. I don't want blood all over my new journal I've just made. Okay, so I'm now going to tie these. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move you back in a bit. Oh, sorry, wrong way. Okay, so I'm going to actually do a double. 1, 2, like that, and then I'm going to pull it up. And then I'm going to do a double on the other side. So 1, wrap down twice, and I'm going to pull that up. And I'm not going to pull it up really, really tight because I want a fairly flat knot. Okay, I'm going to pull it up. There we go. So it's about like that. Now the one thing I'm not going to do is I'm not going to cut these off. Okay, these ends. And the reason I'm not cutting the ends off is because they are going to help me when I add the cover. Because what I'll do is I will tie or glue these in when I put the cover on. Okay, you could put the cover on straight away, so you could sew through the cover as well. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make the cover, and then I will use the same holes that I've already created to sew the cover on as a separate thing. So there you have it. Envelope, plain paper, plenty of things to decorate, write out and all that sort of thing. Now if you wanted to, you could cut this down, and there's a couple of ways you could do that. Is you could use a ruler and a craft knife, and you could put the ruler, this isn't a cutting ruler, but you could put the ruler on like that and use a craft knife and cut it down. You could use a pair of scissors and sort of cut along if you wanted to. At the moment, I'm going to leave it exactly as it is, because before I cut anything down, I'm going to put the cover on, which is actually going to be in the next video. I'm going to put the cover on in the next video, and then I will trim it all down. So if you haven't watched how I found all the bits of paper, what I made, how I decided what I was going to use, how to coffee stain, all those things, go back and see my previous videos. If you want to see how I put the cover on and trim all this so it's into a journal ready for using the nice journaling prompts that Meg's provided, then catch the next video in the series. Make sure that you give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this, and make sure you also subscribe so you don't miss any future videos or the next one in this series. Okay, and I'll see you soon. Thanks very much for watching. Bye bye.